What's up, everybody, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube, Twitter, and everywhere else and answer them here on video format. And we have just a ton of questions this week. A lot of questions. Big week for the Browns. Obviously, they play on Monday Night Football. Playoff implications. Crazy season so far. So we're just going to start with the first question from a regular on this series, C. Zachary Chad, who says, with our question mark at kicker, my favorite topic, he notes, do you see us going for it on fourth down every time we're in the red zone? In the red zone? No, absolutely not. Look, I don't care how trash the kicker is. He should be able to make a 30-yard field goal, right? If that kicker is in the game and they cannot make a 30-yard field goal, you should just not have a kicker on the roster. Now, I'm obviously not advocating for not having a kicker on the roster. I'm just saying if the kicker you do have on the roster can't make a 30-yard field goal, why is he on the team, right? Like, that's just get him off the team. We might as well use a different spot. But seeing as I don't think that's going to be the case, I think in the red zone, absolutely, you should kick the field goal. If you're on fourth down and it's early in the game and you're up, or like if it's like a 3rd and 7, 3rd and long or something like that, and you're in the red zone and you can't really convert, yeah, sure, kick the field goal. I don't have a problem with that. Where this will affect the Browns, though, is that no man's land portion, right, from the 50-yard line to about the 30-yard line of the opposing team's territory. That's where going forward it's going to be a lot more prevalent, right? And where you might kick if you have a good kicker, you're not going to kick anymore, right? You might go for it if you have a 3rd and 1, or not a 3rd and 1. Obviously, it will go on a 3rd and 1, a 4th and 1, or 4th and 2, or a 4th and 5, right? In that area, I think the Browns are going to get a lot more risky, not just because they have less faith in their kickers, both of them, but because they have less to lose at this point in the year and they're playing more loose. The next question comes from Adam, who says, to me, if we win the next 2 games and get into the playoff, we have every opportunity to make it deep in the playoffs if we play to our full potential as a team. Do you agree? I don't think there is any team in the AFC who has the highest ceiling as us. I think the Chiefs have a higher ceiling than us. That defense, that offensive line, they look like a complete team. But that being said, winning the Super Bowl or going far in the playoffs doesn't have anything to do with how high your ceiling is. It has everything to do with how well you're playing. And yeah, the Browns, if they get it together, that defense is clearly top 5. If that offense can get to that top 10 level they were at last year, they have something on their hands. But the problem with that is it just doesn't look like that's coming, but we'll see what happens. Next question comes from Caleb Lee, who says, I'm not a Baker fan. I'm a Baker fan, my bad, not a Browns fan. I feel like he's getting a bad shake this year considering his injury and the drop-off in quality of the entire offense. Can he bounce back in Cleveland, or will he move on and succeed somewhere else? I truly believe he is a talented quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield is a tremendously talented quarterback. I think he has tremendous arm talent. I think he has tremendous accuracy when he's on and when he's right. In rhythm, he's a top 10 quarterback in rhythm when everything's going right. The problem with Baker is that it seems to me that is a tightly wound machine. And here's what I mean by this, right? Some guys are like Ford F-150s, right? A Ford F-150, you could put it in any situation and it's just going to work. Like, it's going to start, it's going to go forever, it's going to give you 200,000 miles, and it's never going to have to go back into the shop, right? It is well made, it's durable, it's tried and true. It's not the flashiest car in the world, it's not the fastest car in the world, but it is a very, very reliable and durable car, right? There are some players who are like that. Then there are players who I think we can put Baker Mayfield in this category, to where when everything's going well, that machine works great and it's very great and it's awesome. But when one thing goes off, right, if one gear is off in that machine, then all of a sudden the whole thing crumbles down. And my issue with just saying it's injuries is it would be excusable to me to write this off on injuries, or even if that is the case, it would be excusable if the level of play had dipped slightly or, a little bit, right? It could be noticeable, but if it dropped a little bit and it was because of injury, I wouldn't be upset. I would be more on your side. Hey, give him a chance. Let him get healthy. He's not at 100%, right? Like if he's at like 50% and his production dropped like 20% or whatever it is, or 50%, that'd be fine. But his production and the drop off that it's had from 2020 to 2021 has far outpaced the amount of injuries that he's going, right? Like it's not as if he's playing slightly worse than he did last year. He is playing dramatically worse than last year. And that kind of drop off in quality, I can't just sit here and blame on injuries. I can't sit here and blame on wide receivers that he threw to the previous year. I can't sit here and blame it on everybody else or the coaching staff that he had success with the year before. I have to sit here and look realistically at the piece in that offensive machine that has had the biggest fall off statistically, and that's Baker Mayfield. Well, not statistically, but level of play wise, and that is Baker Mayfield in this offense. And you have to start to wonder if that's the cause of the issues on the offense. I do think he can bounce back. I do think that he's going to be around in the NFL for a while. I think he's somebody who people are always going to see the potential in, always going to give him an opportunity. And the question with Baker Mayfield will be, until he proves it wrong, how consistent can he be? Because if you can get Baker Mayfield consistent, you have yourself a franchise quarterback. But until you can get him consistent, until you can get him to knock down some of the bad mistakes that he makes late in games specifically, you have a situation here where the Browns are trying to get a certain level, and I don't think Baker Mayfield at this point in his career is fit for that level that they're trying to get to. But thank you for the question, Caleb. Next question comes from Nick George, who says, hey, Quincy, I know the offense was looking better against the Packers, but how much potential do you think we are losing out on without Kareem Hunt? Kareem seems to open up the passing game and still provide the threat of running the ball, all while keeping Nick Chubb fresh. Yeah, Kareem Hunt coming back will be huge. Just because he does add a threat in the passing game. He makes that empty package a lot more deadly because he's an actual threat at wide receiver versus when we have Dearness Johnson in there, who's not necessarily a threat outside of like a slip screen on a pass. Kareem Hunt can catch actual routes, right? Like that's the difference. So yeah, he's going to make a huge difference there. And also where I think Kareem Hunt's going to make the biggest difference for this team, and where if you look at Kareem Hunt's numbers with the Cleveland Browns specifically, where he's going to make the biggest difference is in the red zone. Kareem Hunt is our go-to guy for touchdowns for the last 2 years. It has not been Nick Chubb. It's been Kareem Hunt, right? When we need a goal line play, it's Kareem Hunt in there because Kareem Hunt barrels that shoulder down, goes straight forward, and he scores, right? He has a nose for the end zone. He has a nose for the end zone as a runner and a receiver. I think he's going to be huge in the red zone offense. And that's where you're going to, want to see Kareem Hunt the most, right? Hopefully he can get back healthy. I know he's off the list, so we're getting closer to that. Hopefully this week he can play on Monday. The next question comes from Wesley, who says, on a scale of 1 to 100, how likely do you think the Chiefs beat the Bengals and the Rams beat the Ravens? Then the Browns beat the Steelers on Monday to play for the Bengals for an AFC North championship. That whole scenario, I would say it's about 50-50, the whole scenario, right? If I had to break it down into little parts, I would say the Chiefs beating the Bengals, I would say that's probably about a 60%. I would favor the Chiefs in that, right? I think the Bengals at 40% is pretty good odds for them, and I think they're going to play really well. The Ravens versus the Rams, look, depending on who they have, this could be anywhere from 60, well, not 60. If they have Lamar, it goes to like 50-50, right? Because I think Lamar's a better quarterback, obviously, than Matt Stafford. But if they don't have Lamar and they have Tyler Huntley, I think that goes 60-40 Rams. And if they don't have Lamar or Tyler Huntley and they throw out Josh Johnson again, it's probably like 20% for that specific scenario. And the Browns to beat the Steelers, I think that's 60-40 in the Browns' directions. The Browns should beat the Steelers, right? On paper, the Steelers can't stop the run. The Browns can run. The Browns have a good defense. The Steelers have a bad offense. It matches up well for Cleveland there. So I think, that all kind of gets us to where I feel it's about a 50% chance of all of that stuff happening. Last year, the Browns needed a bunch of stuff to happen to get the seed that they got in the playoffs, and it happened. And I think it was less likely than what this is. But yeah, I feel like all that stuff together, if Lamar or Tyler Huntley doesn't play, those odds jump dramatically to it's like 60% possible that the Browns could have everything go in their direction. The next question comes from AB, who says, would Baker have similar success in his first 4 seasons as Kyler Murray, Mahomes, and Josh Allen if he was drafted by another team than Cleveland? And he basically goes over all of Cleveland's kind of successes and failures in that department and asks, are we just doomed to be stuck in a rinse cycle because of organizational leadership starting at the GM level and up? Well, here's the good news. If Baker Mayfield does not work out for the Cleveland Browns, right, after what will be 5 seasons with this team, at least 4, but probably 5 seasons with this team, here's what I'll say. It will be the first quarterback in Cleveland Browns expansion history that I will say had a absolute 100% fair shake. Like, there can be no real if it doesn't work out for Baker here and he goes somewhere else and it does, I think it just wasn't meant to be here, right? Like, it just wasn't the right situation. I think he has had the fairest shake of any quarterback in the last 20 years here. And honestly, look, Mahomes has probably had the easiest shake of all because he was drafted into an excellent situation. But Josh Allen, he wasn't drafted into that great of a situation, right? The Bills weren't, this good team when he got sent there. They were a struggling team. Like, they were really bad his rookie year. And Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury, I've said enough about Cliff Kingsbury. I'm not a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think he is the greatest coach in the world. I think a lot of the success when it comes to quarterbacks has to do with how good that quarterback is. And that's why it's so hard and so rare and so expensive to keep these guys, because it's not something you can just coach up, and people recognize that. So I don't think this has much, Baker's success or lack of success has much to do with the Browns' current organization. Look, I think Andrew Berry, these last 2 years specifically, has done a really good job giving Baker everything that he could want, right, at the quarterback position. This year, this offseason, Baker had everything he needed. There was no complaints going into it, right? So, nah, man, I don't think we can blame Baker's success as a systematic failure, or not success. I don't think we could blame Baker's success or failure on the system, on the regime. I think this regime is fine. Andrew Berry and the leadership there, I think they're fine. And I think, look, the good news is if Baker doesn't work out and they do have to look for other options, this isn't like when the Browns had Ray Farmer out here drafting quarterbacks. Andrew Berry has been on this team for a while. He has drafted plenty of good players, and he will draft other good players. I don't think this franchise is going to go back to 4-12 or back to 3-13 anytime soon, because I feel like they've built a fine enough foundation to where they're going to be at least 500 for a little while here, whether they have Baker Mayfield or they don't have Baker Mayfield, or they find a new quarterback. I think this is a different organization than what has gone on. And I think the failures of this organization, the failures of this regime, much different than the failures of regimes past. Quite honestly, the season that this organization's having is like a top 5 season of Browns expansion history. So that tells you how high the bar is and how much different this is than years past with the Cleveland Browns. So I'll say that on that front. This next question comes from Soul Train, who says, G. Bush has given up on Baker Mayfield. What is your current stance on Baker at this moment? Now, y'all know G. Bush is the homie. I do the show with him, GBQC. Me and him have disagreements at certain times, but that is my guy, so we're going to keep it respectful in the comment section, regardless of whatever is said here. But as far as giving up on Baker Mayfield, I don't know what giving up on Baker Mayfield really means personally, right? Like, does that mean, do I give up on him as if I don't want to see him play the rest of the year? No, I'm not at that level. Am I at the point to where I don't want to seek out a 5-year deal with Baker Mayfield, regardless of what happens the last year of this deal? Yes, I am at that point, right? Even if Baker has a hot end of this season and a hot next season, anything short of winning a Super Bowl, I don't think I give this dude a 5-year extension. I just don't think he is reliable enough at this point to give that kind of money to. Now, if we're talking about a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year team-friendly option, hey, we can do that. I'm not opposed to that because that would save you money on the 5th-year extension, and that would save you money if you have to franchise tag him so you can find a new solution. But I'm at the situation where I respect everything that Baker Mayfield has done for this team. I respect that he has been a vital part in stabilizing this organization so they can go away from being the 2-12 Browns and go into a new era where they're a lot more of a respectable organization. And I think Baker has had a big hand in that stabilization and that steady raise that the Browns have had over the last 4 years since he's been here. But I also think that at this point, unfortunately, the organization is starting to outgrow Baker Mayfield, and we're going to have to look for other options at this point. And look, sometimes the first love ain't the one you going to marry, right? And that's kind of the situation the Browns are in with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was somebody who really helped us out, but it ain't going to go all the way with Baker Mayfield, in my opinion. I think, to get to Bernie Kosar, you need to get Brian Sipe first or vice versa, right? To get to Tom Brady, you need to have Bledsoe, right? I think he's more of a stepping stone, more of a transitional guy at this point, and we need to start looking at Baker Mayfield less as can he be the franchise to who is he going to transition to. And that's a little bit of a harsh conversation, but I think it's a conversation that could be had with a lot of respect too. Like I respect what Baker's done for this team. I just think at this point we're moving on to needing more at the quarterback position than what he can reliably provide. The next question comes from Pee Wee, who says some fans are saying the Browns shouldn't even want to make the playoffs because they'll get destroyed. Do you think they should still try for a playoff spot? Absolutely, man. I never get this like super defeatist attitude with some fans who are like, oh man, I don't even want to watch because we're going to get destroyed, or if the team goes down 10 points, oh, I'm just going to like, this is sports at the end of the day, right? And if you're going to be a sports fan, if you're going to watch sports games, you have to understand there are going to be peaks, valleys, highs, lows, and you got to ride through them, right? There is no shortcut through that, right? If you want to be emotionally invested in the team, you can't just be here for the highs and not be here for the lows. And that doesn't mean you got to be here for the team if they're absolutely low. Like, I'm not mad at anybody who stopped watching at 0-16 or 1-15 because the Browns stopped trying. But this ain't 0-16. This ain't 1-15. This ain't a team that stopped trying. This is a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. And honestly, look, if you can get into the playoffs, and anything can happen once you get into the playoffs. So why not, right? Why not try? Right. I always go into things with the mindset of you got to try and fail before you can count yourself out of it. And I think the same thing for the Cleveland Browns. I think a lot of people need to go to that, right? Because a lot of people take their team out of it, take themselves out of it before they even give themselves a fair shot. And I think you're just robbing yourself when you do stuff like that, because you never know until you try, right? You got to shoot your shot to see if you can make it. And, when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the Super Bowl, you ain't never going to win no Super Bowl. You ain't never going to make the playoffs. You ain't never going to do anything significant if you don't shoot your shot. So shoot your shot, right? It's never going to happen if you don't ask for it or if you don't try to get it. So try to get it, fight for it, and then see what happens and then react to that. But, some people kind of, in an effort to protect themselves, I guess, just take themselves out of it before they even get into it. And I just don't think that's a recipe for success or just an enjoyable way to watch sports. You know what I mean? Like, for me, if the Browns won the Super Bowl, it would be so much more enjoyable than any other team. Like, let's say the Cavs, right? When the Cavs won the Super Bowl, I enjoyed it, and it was great because they came back from 3-1. But let's say the Cavs would have won that NBA Finals. I think I call it the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals in 2015, right? When LeBron first got here. That one wouldn't have hit like the 2016 one, because the 2016 one, you really went through a lot of struggle. Like, it took you out to get to that point to where you won. And that makes the victory more sweet. 2015, if they would have won, yeah, there was a lot of injuries, but the Cavs kind of just rolled in there, and we thought, hey, the championship's going to be handed to us. I'm not somebody who likes things just being handed to me on a silver platter. I want to, have a little bit of a fight for it, an investment for it, stakes, highs and lows. Like, I like an arc in things. And this season has had an arc, and if the Browns win the Super Bowl this year, it's going to feel great, right? I'm not saying they're going to do it, but if they do, or if the Browns ever win the Super Bowl, it's going to feel great because you were there for all of the points in the arc. And that's what being a fan is about. It's not just jumping in when things are great. It's about going through the arc with the fan base. So when you do get to that point, that reach that level of success, you can really appreciate it because you know where it all came from. But that's just me. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for asking these questions. Have a great day. Have a good night.